Thank you, Yusuke. We're now going to welcome François Lambert. For those of you who don't know him yet, François was on one of the pictures presented by Yusuke. He was Chief of Staff of Annick Girardin, then Minister of Maritime Affairs. He has an extensive field of experience gained in Pas-de-Calais and Somme. He has a thorough understanding of the maritime and port ecosystem, having previously served as General Delegate of the Group of Naval Construction Industries. And prior to that, he was Deputy Director of the Port of Dunkerque. Since 2022, François is... Since 2022. She made a mistake and says 1922. But since 2022, he is director of the school here, INSM. Thank you for Gerson, who arrived in 1871. Thank you, all of you, for being here. I'm glad to be speaking this afternoon, after introducing the morning. I must say that when Gerson asked me to talk about the following subjects and to make a link between what Yusuke spoke about and what we talked about, we will be talking about economic sanctions. I was a little taken aback. But I'll talk about three main ideas that have come to me as I was talking with the various panelists. First of all, it's the human capital that you spoke about, Yusuke. We are very proud to have joined your association through Gerson's work, actually. I would also like to talk about tariffs, customs tariffs. And since we are in an international day, I would like to talk about France, because when we talk about France, like you, Yusuke, here we obviously believe in the human capital. A navy without seafarers for us is imaginary. A whole digitalization of maritime activity for us is not imaginable. There is a transition, whether it be on energy or digital. There's still the word transition. It's not a revolution. A GPS, a radar, they're a help. AI is a help, but it in no way will it replace the humans and the young people that we are training here. So we must keep that capacity to, in a world that is changing, it's very complex. And in the school here, we have a strategic plan. We don't just wake up in the morning and think, okay, we could work about this or that. Our students are trained according to what is provided by the International Convention, the STCW, around various disciplines that are not always very exciting to learn. They're not always exciting to teach either. I'm saying it because we know that we each carry our cross, and the STCW maybe doesn't evolve as fast as the world is evolving. So I'd like to insist here on the necessary complementarity that we need to find with the companies of the maritime sector. And I salute here Folio, who is here. Brokers, but also insurance, and obviously So we have brought together the four maritime schools in France. There were four, we brought them all together. We have merged them to have a more ambitious project, the National Superior School, Maritime School. So the project is well written. It's not me that wrote it, but it looks far ahead. It looks towards the logistics, port, rivers. But in all of that, we must make choices, and choices that go beyond the framework of the STCW. Electronics, electrotechnique, automatic. All that's interesting, but we have to also train to decarbonation, train for digitalization. We have to make sure that the methods that are not yet provided for by the STCW can be brought in, so that in 10, 20 years' time, when the people we train are still on board, even though some of them will convert, they can also remember that this is where they learned it, and that they have been also faced with the industry. It was interesting to hear about the parallel with methanol and ammonia. I realize it would be in the school very long for everybody. We could spend 10, 15 years learning everything, but that's not the aim. We need to learn the basics. We could keep you here, students, very long time, but that's not the aim. We want to take you and confront you with the real world, because you will then, it's you who's going to be in the Strait of Hormuz, where it's you that will be in the Strait of Malacca. It's you who will go through the channel. So I'd also like to say a word about commercial policies. Because we have Europe. We have invented Europe. Since 1968, we have the possibility of consolidating and protecting European industries from unlawful competition. We have the WTO, and Mr. Pogam was talking about it. The WTO can be transformed with the favored nation clause. And in Europe, we cannot discriminate commercial partners. That's the theory. And then there's commercial warfare. There's the practices of another country that we might consider as unlawful. There's various powers that are arising. Donald Trump is obviously the champion in terms of communication, and we have instruments for fighting against that. We have anti-coercive instruments from the WTO, or instruments against dumping, but it's feeble in the face of the very strong communication that is coming across from across the world. So here,
il y aura peut-être pour vous, quelques élèves qui sont là, l'effet le plus direct sur le transport maritime et sur l'abaissement des taux de fret sera, et c'est le plus immédiat, sera peut-être plus impactante.
The volatile effect.
On essaye de faire changer dans la marine marchande sur le fond, avec des changements extrêmement profonds et qui revêtiront plutôt une grande stabilité. Parce que ce qu'on vous a appris dans cette évolution de la marine marchande, ce qu'on essaye de vous apprendre par le biais de la décarbonation, par la digitalisation.
So what we're trying to teach you here through decarbonation and digitalization is that these evolutions, which may seem intemporal, yet there's innovation is coming in by increments. But
aussi par le volet incrémental. Et donc c'est cette relative, cette évolution dont on parle.
This evolution, this double transition that we're talking about, is actually a form of stability to maintain for the students to maintain their knowledge. And in parallel to that, there's a volatility that appears on the commercial, at least in terms of communication, on when it comes to sanctions and various barriers, and specifically from the US. So now, France, it's important to situate oneself. France, I will talk about her strengths. This morning I was very interested in the debate because in a geopolitical, very realistic debate, what is France? What is it? The force of deterrence? Is it technological force? There's a formula, a neighbor of the world. So it's a maritime space that gives you a statute as a neighbor of the world. There's the francophonie, which is all the French-speaking world. And then what Mr. Pogam was saying is we also have a seat at the WTO. And so we could maybe also, with our own competencies, actually work towards changing the situation. However, and I'm sorry about it, we don't have a strong maritime strategy. First of all, because I think we woke up late thinking about the oceans diplomacy. The president talks about oceans diplomacy as something that is acquired in the last 10 years by the president. There is also our presence in various French land across the world. We are really the neighbor of the world in various maritime basins, the Caribbean, Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, and the poles. And then there's also the courageous creation of the reef, the French international register. Who would have thought that the French flag would have been one of the most sought after? Who would have thought that we are in the top 20? We have doubled our tonnage in the last 10 years. France is also CMA CGM, a worldwide company that has helped by the French state, and it was a very bad situation, and now has diversified, and from that diversification could have a strong impact. There's the power of the maritime industry, the capacity we have to go towards different innovations, like where marine energies have been important ways of diversification. And then I add our school here, the ENSM, the bet that we made in 2010, which wasn't an easy one, but to turn towards maritime engineering, this diploma that will allow you to get diversified.
présent là-dessus et on est en train d'y travailler, il est en train d'y travailler avec ce revamped. Et tout ça, c'est un réveil un peu tardif.
But all this has happened a little bit late.
Deuxième raison, c'est qu'on est trop
But
court-termiste. On n'a pas de plan.
another concern is that we see too short term. We don't see further than 5 years. I'm a nostalgic of the plan. I was brought up by the created by De Gaulle. And the country was reconstructed here in France through plans, 5-year plans. But we see too much at short term. We can't look for the maritime world. We must think 30 years ahead, 20, 30. 5 is too short. We can start seeing what we need to be in 15 years. We can start seeing what choices we must make for what training we must go towards, how we must invest. And in Ivory Coast, it's the same problem. Let's look at the planning of energy in France. We're talking about a planning only a few years ahead, whereas there's a major plan that talks about the return of the nuclear and of maritime energies. Doesn't mean we agree, we don't have to agree, but it's a long-term view, it's a strategy. It's not just a little short-term vision, it's really an ambition on the long term. Third element is that the sea is too often relegated to a sort of sectorial policies. It keeps us from considering the whole value chain. It keeps us from going from the insurance logic, the logistical logics. And yes, these segments are clearly identified by the French maritime cluster, but they're not really considered as maritime sectors. There have been various works by chambers of commerce, the Conseil d'État. There's been a report on the maritime question. So when we look at, we talk about a policy of the environment, so we end up being a little part. The sea is a small part of other sectors. So the sea becomes part of an environmental policy. Whereas we have two different realities. The sea is a territory. It's a territory. It's particular, but it's a territory with users. And so there are real interactions. The Greek, they invented a maritime integrated policy.
Au plan politique, au niveau national, Maria Damanaki, pour ne pas la nommer, enfermée dans le cadre du régime des colonels. Et puis le parti qui arrivait au pouvoir avec un ministre, Kostis Moussouroulis, dont personne ne se souvient, mais c'est à ce moment-là que la déclaration de Limassol.
At that time, just after the period of the colonels in Greece, they came up with an integrated maritime policy. It's the capacity to see economy as a strength to not go to war. It's the same as the French and the Germans did with steel and coal after the war. We used resources to actually make peace. Once a space is agreed on and shared, and not delimited, but shared, well, that can also count. So to conclude, if we are aware of our strengths, And to simplify, if we're aware of your competencies, you, the students, your skills and competencies, the ones you have acquired here and that you will be developing soon on the field. To be a global maritime professional. So if we are confident in the future, yet we're aware that it's cracking everywhere. And the head of the army, Thierry Burkhardt, previous head of the French army, where he spoke of the many conflicts that he has seen developing since he arrived at the head of the army, and it's very interesting. Look at that conference. You will see the volatility and versatility I'm talking about is a reality. And the balance of the institutions is very fragile. Stephen Zweig, who fascinates me for many reasons. There was a quote by Stephen Zweig about the balance of the institutions, the balance of powers, but that's what the law is for. So if we have the courage to implement the law, then I think we can trust in the future, we can believe in it. And where there is thought, there is power. That is Shakespeare, written by Victor Hugo.